Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the latest episode of Smackdown. So we finally had Drew McIntyre's response to CM Punk's and Roman Reigns promo on Raw. Although we finally got to it. I say that because he had to have 3 opportunities to kind of get this message across, because he came out opening this episode of SmackDown only to be attacked by Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes then went into this tirade, delivered an absolute fire promo of himself with so much passion, and delivering his lines at such a rate that I was genuinely worried that he was going to have an aneurysm or something. He generally proper went for this, and he showed once again why he's like one of the top guys in WWE. So Drew McIntyre comes out a bit later in the show to try and deliver his message again, only to be attacked by Jacob Fatu. So we finally got to Drew McIntyre's getting his response out for the 3rd time of asking, and basically, he delivered a fire promo of himself. He didn't really take any shots too much at CM Punk or Roman Reigns, or not to the same degree anyway. This promo more lent into the I suppose there was this sort of criticism that I didn't personally agree with, but there was this rhetoric online about that they felt that the CM Punk and Roman Reigns promo had kind of made SmackDown sort of sound like the B show, if you like, and it was kind of like and as a result the title that Drew McIntyre was holding was kind of like second rate as well, and he kind of lent in this promo lent into that, where Drew McIntyre was basically here to remind them that this is a title that was made by the Bret Harts, the Hulk Hogan's, the Shawn Michaels, the Triple H's, the Rocks, and so if anybody who kind of like treats that as kind of like second rate, then he will show them the door. I thought that this was a great promo, great response by Drew McIntyre. We have basically we basically have an elimination chamber match set up next week between Cody Rhodes, Jacob Fatu, and Sami Zayn. And it's interesting because when that match was announced, I was like, well, that's interesting, because you would say that all 3 of those would be top contenders that you would expect to see in Elimination Chamber. And so I'm expecting there to be a little bit of a ruse here. I'm expecting this to be a little bit of a red herring by WWE. I can see this. I mean, if they do stick with an outright winner, then more power to them for having the boldness to do. But I do suspect that there is going to be some shenanigans here, but this match is going to end up in a DQ to kind of preserve all of them. That's how I kind of like end up seeing it. But we had a really good tag team match, I thought, where the team of Rhea Ripley and Io Sky defended their tag team belts against Julia and Kiana James. I thought that this was, the real good back and forth here. There wasn't a part of me that doubted that Rio were losing the titles here, but there were some real good to and fro's and near falls, and that kind of like really kind of made me start to question it. There was, interestingly, we had Julia taking the pin here, which seemed a bit odd, right? I mean, I don't know if this is going to be kind of a Liv Morgan kind of angle, and I say that, in the sense where you had Liv Morgan eating the pin and in their match against Rio, and then you had Liv Morgan essentially getting this push by winning the Royal Rumble. I don't know if there's going to, don't know if we can read it. Julia's in the Elimination Chamber qualifying match next week, so I don't know if to take it if that this is that Julia is going to win that match, because I can't really fathom why you would have Julia eating the pin over Kiana James here. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. I kind of hope that that's what it indicates, because I don't want because I don't think that they booked Julia particularly well during her first title reign. So, you know, I'm hoping they kind of like reset and they give Julia the push that she's kind of like deserving of now. So I kind of like hope that we just had Julia eating the pin here, just didn't, and I just hoping that it really only signifies that there's a push for Julia coming. But I do say that with a little bit of hesitancy as well, because I know how they've kind of dropped the ball on Julia before now. So I'm hoping that push is coming. We had a good match between The Miz and Carmelo Hayes. This wasn't for the United States title. We had our first qualifying elimination chamber match for the women took place between Tiffany Stratton, Lash Legend, and Chelsea Green. I thought that this was an interesting one as well, because I don't think that there was ever a part of me that felt that Chelsea Green was coming out the winner here. But I do feel like that I was like, well, it's interesting, because you would have thought that Tiffany Stratton would be in there. You would have thought maybe obviously Lash Legend is going to get this push, so I would, you wouldn't sort of bet against Lash Legend being in the Elimination Chamber. So I thought that's an interesting dynamic. So, there was intrigue in this match. I thought it was a really good triple threat. Tiffany Stratton ended up picking up a win here, which I thought was kind of a right decision. I guess there's still a lot more that you can do with Lash Legend. You could, you could still keep her in the tag team division. She got her and Nia Jax have a tag team title match against Rio next week. So you could go with you could maybe break Lash Legend and Nia Jax up and insert Lash Legend into the singles division. I think that's not a bad idea neither, seeing, especially considering how the contenders for Jade Cargill's title are kind of like quite bare on the ground at the minute. We don't know how the time scale for when Bianca Belair is going to return. I mean, so we've got kind of Jordan Grace providing a holding a placeholder for that at the minute, but you could insert Charlotte Flair into there. You could insert Lash Legend. It all depends on kind of like time frames, I suppose. We had Kit Wilson coming out here to also do his usual toxic gimmick, and was basically saying that the Royal Rumble was all toxic and 30 meatheads, and trying to prove themselves to be alpha then, and that he was a tonic to it, and to prove that he had open challenge to anyone who was in the Royal Rumble. Obafemi, unfortunately for Kit Wilson, was the one to answer this challenge, and as predicted, Obafemi just came out and just annihilated Kit Wilson, which was really wonderful to see. I'm starting to become a fan of Kit Wilson. I've never been a fan. He's never got over with me, but there were a couple of times here where he really kind of made me chuckle, where he was where he basically responded to this beatdown by Obafemi by going backstage, and he started blaming Macedonia for this, saying that it was none of his toxicity, but before Macedonia came along looking like a protein bar. I just, he just, yeah, like I said, I've never, but really, the whole Kit Wilson characters never really landed with me, but yeah, I find some enjoyment out of him. He made me chuckle a few times during this, I gotta say. So yeah, I am in danger of becoming a Kit Wilson fan. I say, and I feel like I've got to take a long shower now, but I've kind of like said that. But yeah, so we had a match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Tama Tonga here. This match was fine. There wasn't really anything to but there was. I don't think WWE necessarily did the best job of kind of highlighting the history between these two and making it sound a bigger deal. I thought the crowd were a little bit silent during this match as well, so I don't think it was one that was necessarily really landed. It was fine, but we basically had. Yeah, but I guess we're kind of feeling like there's this whole thing with the MFTs and the Wyatt Six, which I guess is continuing. I don't think it's tiresome now. I don't think we necessarily need to. I mean, I know that the feud still has to keep on going because the MFTs have the lantern and stuff. But I guess, like I said, the one good thing that came out of the feud between the MFTs and the Wyatt Six is that you had all these little potential individual rivals that could come out of that, so that you had like Rowan and Tonga, for example. You had and you had the Solo Sikoa, and it was and Bo Dallas, and it was basically like, I just feel like you could have done. And I feel like you can just break that off into those single feuds now to kind of like resolve that. I don't think that you really necessarily need to continue the whole feud. So I think that's gone on a little too long now. Especially when I think that there's other aspects of SmackDown that maybe needs a little bit more attention, needs a little bit more TLC, I think. And speaking of that, yeah, we'll get straight on to an example of that, because then something really weird happened, right? So we had basically, and I still can't even remember how it all came about now, right? So let me try and get this straight. So yeah, we had Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez come out. We had we had done this little tease where they were going to kind of like address, the little kind of fallouts that they've had with Liv eliminating Raquel from the Royal Rumble, and then last week in Raquel's match against Stephanie Valkyrie, obviously she told Liv Morgan to stay in the back. Liv Morgan came out, so we were teasing that we were going to get addressed with all that when it was interrupted by Jade Cargill coming out. We had because Liv Morgan was still kind of also saying that she hadn't decided, that despite attacking Stephanie Valkyrie at the end of the match against Raquel Rodriguez, we would interpret that as a firing shot. I guess not, because Liv Morgan came out here kind of seeming to have amnesia of that and just going, well, I'm still undecided about who I'm going to pick here. So Jade Cargill basically was just like, came out to basically just say, well, if you do choose me, Liv, I will destroy you. So yeah, and then we had Jordan Grace come out because she was in the feud, and then suddenly Nick Aldis was basically like ladies, right? Okay, so now we're going to have a tag team match, and we're going to have Jade Cargill and Jordan Grace take on the team of Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. And I was like, what? These... Like, even the commentator was like, well, that's never going to work, right? You had these... And you've had basically Jade Cargill and Jordan Grace, who have for the past month or so, however long it's been, obviously have been in the feud, and now suddenly you've got the tag team, and I understand what they were going for, right? Because there was like this spot where there was this miscommunication where I think it was where yeah, it was Jade Cargill that had hit Jordan Grace, and then you had this other miscommunication where Raquel Rodriguez had kicked Liv Morgan. So I understand what they were going for here, where they were trying to move a needle and still continue to plant those seeds about the fallouts and stuff like that. But it just didn't need to be, right? Jordan Grace and Jade Cargill were already in this feud. You had already had these seeds and these teases that things were not peachy between Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. So it just didn't really need all of this to kind of like, continue to plant those seeds, right? It just felt like it felt really weird. It felt like just going on this needless trip and then setting up a GPS back to your house. And when it's like, but we're already at a house already. Like you know what I mean? That's probably not the best analogy I've used in my life, but you get what I'm saying. It just all felt like a little bit. It seemed to be convoluting it a lot more than it really needed to be. So yeah, I thought that little segment was just a little bit messy. So we had. With the men's qualifying elimination chamber, we had the match between Randy Orton, Solo Sikoa, and Aleister Black. Again, really solid match, really good in-ring performances, real to and fro. Again, there wasn't really a part of me that felt that believed that Randy Orton was losing this. There was a little bit of that, but I thought that this was a solid match. I'm still not entirely sure what they're really necessarily doing with Randy Orton. It seems to be a little bit directionless at the minute. We had the absence of the MFTs in this match as well. We had a promo by Bo Dallas earlier in the week. What am I talking about? Earlier in the episode, where he was basically saying something along the lines of that you are going to be faced with your fear when you're all alone, and suddenly we had Solo Sikoa just go wandering around backstage just before coming out for this match, going, "Where are my MFTs? They will disappear." So I suspect the Wyatt Six are behind that, which kind of makes again goes back to like a point I was making, where it makes me feel like we're not just doing like a singles, breaking these off into singles feuds, and we're still continuing this feud between the MFDs and the Wyatt Six as these two warring factions, which, like I said, I think it's a bit overused. So yeah, all in all, guys, a little bit of a mixed bag. I will give it a thumbs up because I thought there were more hits and misses. I think that apart from the real messy bit between them, Liv and Raquel and Jordan and Jade, I thought that this was a solid enough episode of Smackdown. So we'll see how it goes going forward. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to ring a bell for notifications. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please feel free to let me know down in the comment section about what your own thoughts on this episode of Smackdown were, what your little fan theories are, going forward, and how this plants the seeds for Elimination Chamber and the road to WrestleMania. All of our fun geeky stuff, let me know down in the comment section. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. You guys take care.